Today is August 16th. It is 9:14 a.m. We're going to start the Troy Local Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting. We have James Donnelly, Randy Coburn, myself present. We are missing Andy Ross and Tom Casey today. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes from the March 27th board meeting, which we do have enough people to vote on that. Are there any questions or comments before we approve those minutes, or do we have someone who wants to motion to approve?
So I did have one thing about, and I tried to actually reach out to Mitch, and he kind of got back to me, but not the answer. Did the Flex Tech, that study, is that complete?
I don't know. Are you familiar with that? No.
Because just from, so an old business here, we have that this Flex Tech, you know, that we received the funding to go through this feasibility study. It looks like, I mean, it looks like it was funded, and it looks like that the report would take about 4 to 5 months, which would put us now. Yeah. I reached out to Mitch, assuming he was the point person on it when I was going through the minutes last night, and he like half answered my email because I said, you know, I'm assuming you're the point person. If you are, where are you with this? And he basically said, you know, yeah, I'm the point person, however I can help. But I was like, well, did we ever commence it, or you know what I mean? If it was initiated, so I figured I'd
from CH.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw that out there in case anybody else knew. But it sounds like we're not sure. But that, I wonder. So that was my only thing. But so that's, we'll get that answer one way or another when it comes to.
And he did know about it, or?
He was, well, yeah, so he did, well, so that's what I said. I was like, are you handling a, you know, a study, feasibility study that has to, you know, do with Flex Tech? Looks like $100,000 was funded for it. Are you the point person? If not, do you know who is, and where are we at with it? But all his reply said was like, I'm your point person, let me know how I can help. And I was like,
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay. If I do, I don't recognize it as this.
Yeah. All right, so that's something good to, I'm sure he'll get back to me today. I mean, he's pretty on top of stuff, but that was one of the things that I had thought of looking through the minutes. But otherwise,
okay.
No other questions. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March.
Okay. I will second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, motion passed. And we just have Tom and Andy absent today. On to item 2, the executive director and staffing point.
So who wants to take the lead on that?
I'll leave it to you guys, or we could do a background on it, whatever you want to do. So.
Okay, well, we've had some discussions about making some modifications to the staffing of the LDC. You know, in the past, it was the Commissioner of Planning who was the Executive Director of the LDC. Danae has been the Acting Secretary, and Andrew Kreshik has been a Project Manager, and that has been the staffing up to now. We're proposing a change as follows, which is to have Seamus be the Executive Director, myself as the Deputy Executive Director, and then Danae would remain as the Acting Secretary, and Andrew's role would stay the same, but we are looking to kind of expand his role in terms of staffing responsibilities of the LDC. We're expecting to kind of spell this out in more detail with basically job descriptions, duties that we would all have, and share responsibilities and to make sure that the organization kind of keeps doing its thing in an effective and efficient manner.
Would that require a motion today, or do we have to have a different number of attendees for that?
If we get into the compensation side of it, which I don't think we're ready to do, with Matt's assistance, I think we need to do a kind of a year-over-year budget analysis to see what kind of amount of, annual fund balance can be applied to paying for stipends. In the first instance, if we were doing that part of it today, we would be in a little bit of a hamstring. But the base appointments can be done with this quorum.
Great.
And then next month, we'll bring back what I suspect would be a more formal resolution outlining each role. We'd have a short agreement for each of the individuals saying this is your scope of work, and this is what we're assigning for an annual stipend. At that point, we'd want and probably need Andy and Mr. Casey here, and Tom as the other two directors here to have a more robust quorum to the extent that you and Seamus would step back and just abstain on that motion. But today, this will kind of get the roles established and keep the lights on. And then we can sort of lean into things starting in September.
So the actual motion is for James as the executive director and keep the rest, I'm sorry.
Randy as Deputy Executive Director, Danae, I think has been Acting Secretary, but I think we're maybe renaming that as Economic Development Specialist and Acting Secretary to kind of fit her expanding roles with the city. And then Andrew is Project Manager. That also it's, in a technical level, this appointment today will bring the directors and officers' insurance coverages in for those named individuals, just to have them covered to the extent that you're out doing economic development and something bad happens, or if someone were to file a suit or something like that, you'd have that insurance pick up. So having the named roles on a continuous basis keeps that connection as well.
Yeah, and let's get it into let's hope I really want everyone to be at the next meeting. I hope we can make it to get everything else through for what you guys need. That sounds good to me. So we have a motion for James as executive director, Randy as the assistant director, Danae as right now secretary, and Andy Kreshnik as in planning capacity.
Project manager.
Project manager. Sorry. Do we have a motion?
Just a question of, it's an order, do we almost, Justin, have to separate those votes just because technically Randy's name is just, like he probably can't vote for himself.
Yeah, for now, I think just the roles are okay.
You're okay, because
when you're, the dividing line is when the board is discussing compensation for an individual.
Okay.
And then you would have to step back and we're talking about that.
Okay.
But for now, I think we just get the names in, and one.
And then we'll need more attendees at the next meeting for,
Right.
Good.
Yeah. So this is just to kick that in, kick that in work in motion, I would imagine.
Okay.
Which, that works for me. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Recuse, I think? I don't think.
No, you have to.
Aye? Okay.
Yeah.
Aye?
For the next one, I know it feels weird you're voting for yourself.
Show a little
but-
confidence in you.
Yeah, listen, I've been voting
Next
for
one
this
we'll
stuff
whack
for a
out
long
individually,
time. No, thank you.
Yeah. It sounds like we're gonna have more people on the list, and that's great. So we'll have more people for you to recuse, than you recuse the next time. And then
Perfect.
Yep.
good to go. Okay. Is that everything? Yeah, that's everything for item 2. Let's go into new business. I don't know if there is much today. We have a lot of old business to cover. On to old business?
I just had one question with new business, just the administrative fees. I was just looking through the statement of activities. It just looks like it's way over what the budget is. Is that typical? Is there?
If you look at the financials.
Well, that.
Yeah, activities versus budget.
That's a little misleading, and I can talk to Matt about that.
Okay.
There was a administrative fee of around $67,000 earned as a split for when the IDA closed on Kings 2, because we talked about yesterday, the Federal Street land, where the LDC is involved in an IDA project, the IDA splits.
Mm-hmm.
The $75,000 for land purchase isn't an administrative fee, it's land sales. So on that revenue side, where you have administrative fees parked up there, I think that merges land sale with administrative fees. I don't know if we need to adjust that downward. You know, it's all bottoms out to the same amount, but I think it's just classing the $75,000 on the land sale as such. That's all we can do.
Cool, all for collecting as many fees. I was just curious why it was so increased compared to what we thought. Cool, thank you.
And let's move on to old business, the first item being the update on the geothermal project. Who's taking that one?
Want me to start?
You want
it
to
up?
dive in and,
I'll do my best.
seems to be moving,
So this is a project that has been in various stages of planning over the last few years. The project is basically, boils down to, what it's been up to at this point is feasibility analysis of doing a bore field in Riverfront Park. It involves some leases of property by the city for pump station along River Street, as well as an energy center, which is really kind of a pump station that would be operated by National Grid in the city-owned parcel that's part of the atrium, and then ultimately to generate the geothermal energy, get it out to basically River Street, pumped over to the atrium, and then the National Grid takes over from there and distributes it to off-takers that they're trying to develop as we speak. The project area is defined as sort of a certain part of the downtown area, and this is all a pilot project that's being done under directive from the Public Service Commission to National Grid, and it will be sort of a first of its kind, at least in New York State, of where it's shared ownership, where the city, through the LDC, would be sort of the owner-operator of the bore field and providing the energy that's produced to National Grid for distribution. So there's been technical and economic feasibility work that has been done. That is still ongoing, but part of the process is to get this through the SECRA process, and we have started that process. The SECRA process would involve the city as lead agency, because this really is a city-owned project that will involve leases between the city and the LDC, and we have initiated that process and are taking that recommendation to the City Council for next Thursday, which is the Finance Committee meeting. And assuming the Finance Committee is okay with that, they would make a recommendation for the full council to declare itself as lead agency and initiate the SECRA process.
Good summary. That'll culminate towards the city soliciting that lead agency status to all the involved agencies, which there's a very long list.
Right.
Between the Public Service Commission and the Department of State and DEC and the whole alphabet soup.
SHPO and...
everyone. And then 30 days after that, the city can consider adopting a negative declaration for the project, which would complete SECRA. What we're trying to do as well is is accomplish the city approvals for those leases that we talked about, the lease for the bore field in the park, under the staircase, and then inside the atrium, which will generally allow the project to proceed after that to what we call a go, no-go under the NYSERDA grant. And that involves making sure that all the financial feasibility is there. We have a source of revenue to pay for the project, getting the agreements with National Grid put together for offtake. That'll probably run from October to January till we get to a point where we would actually sign a lease and start thinking about soliciting bids for construction and putting together an actual budget. So this is kind of the first step along the road of a number of steps to get to where we need to be. In a perfect world, it would start construction in the spring. But that...
Do you think that's realistic? Well, that's the goal. I mean, that's the goal.
It's feasible.
Yeah.
There may be a number of challenges along the way to get the financing package put together, and National Grid ultimately needs to get a green light out of the Public Service Commission in January, which is really the largest approval to put it all together. So we're just trying to make sure that we have all our housekeeping ready and advance things to that point. So the seeker review is one of the initial larger milestones under the NYSERDA grant, where the funding can actually flow out of NYSERDA to pay for consultants like Siemens and CHA and others. So we're just kind of knocking down the pins.
Mm-hmm. And do we have that $4 million already?
Well, it's there at NYSERDA. It can be drawn.
Okay.
So what happens?
I thought I saw that reflected in the.
Yeah. What happens in about $1.5 million of that is available for this design and go no go phase. The milestones, as they're measured, each have a dollar amount associated with them of that $1.5 million. And once we have a seeker neg deck documented and packaged, Lucky Danae, we'll be able to submit reimbursement requests to NYSERDA to draw down that allocation or budget for that milestone. Behind all that, Siemens, CHA, and others will have bills in front of the LDC to pay out of that. Right. So the goal is to have the LDC not really accrue a lot of liabilities. We're just going to take those bills in and pay them as the milestones are hit. So.
Have you had past experience working with NYSERDA on things like this? Like, what is the timeline for submitting a bill and getting paid typically?
I think they've told, Dylan was engaged with them directly, but I think Danae's gotten some feedback. I think it's about a 30-day turnaround.
It's really quick. Yeah,
That's great,
it's all electronic. It's uploaded. They know it's coming. They approve it, and they send the check electronically.
Yeah, so it should go quick. A lot of the consultants, Siemens and CHA, are a couple of years into this, so they're very eager to get the steps hit.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make sure that we have a good calendar and action plan to start taking them down kind of sequentially. So it's good to see things kind of budge loose and start moving. And the administration through Dana and Rick and certainly Seamus have been helpful to so far keep those things kind of revved up and moving again. So
yeah, it's a really exciting project, and it's I know that a lot of folks have been working on it since 2018, but just to see it from January to now, how it's been this burst of kind of getting through the PSC, National Grid Fund, everybody kind of more. It's awesome to see everybody getting on the same page and it becoming closer to a reality. And like you were saying, Justin, the secret is a huge first step. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see like drills in action on the site. Like that's going to stir like the marketing efforts around that are going to be strong.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to be like, who's drilling and drilling?
Yeah.
Very cool. Any further questions or comments on that project update? Otherwise, on to King Fuel site.
All right. Well, in Andrew's absence.
Yeah, at this point, I think that the quick summary is that National Grid is making a lot of progress with the remediation, and in the next 2 months, we understand that they're going to shift from what's called Phase 1 to Phase 2.
Wow.
Where they're moving from one area of the site, kind of deeming that portion, it's the southern portion, as complete for purposes of remediation, and then shifting to the next phase a little bit more to the north. As part of that, and in order to get them the site prepped for them to move to Phase 2, the LDC on the site has a few piles of not contaminated, but just latent material, construction debris and dirt and things like that need to be moved off the site. There will be, as part of the license agreement, Grid in 3 tranches of around $80,000. As they complete each phase, there's called a roadway, restoration payment. So in addition to the monthly payments of around $10,000 for the license, there'll be a little bit of a progress payment, if you will, that comes through there. The question of the LDC, or the issue of the LDC going out to bid to have that work undertaken, was looked at by Andrew, and it was discussed and proposed that the LDC work with the city on kind of a force account basis to use DPW. I don't know if it's just one operator and a couple dump trucks or what it might be, to be out there for a day or whatever the timing may take, but to pay the city on a force account basis for the labor has been brought up. And I think that might require, as a suggestion, Andrew, working with DPW to how many operators and how many truck drivers do you need, and package that as a force account payment. On a fiscal basis, if that's less than the roadway payment that's coming from Grid, maybe it equals out, or maybe it's less. We just kind of have to get a sense of the labor.
Yeah.
So it should be somewhat revenue neutral, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Is the agreed upon fee that National Grid pays, or is it already a set agreed upon fee?
It's in, yeah,
Okay.
and it's associated with the roadway, because they're going in and kind of blowing up the site.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the remediation, we always have to maintain through traffic for the transfer station to go around the horn. So the roadway's been kind of moving, and as part of the negotiation, the LDC said, hey, listen, if we have to go and move the road after you complete phase 1 or restore it, so it's, laying down some, asphalt or whatever.
Yeah.
There was an extra payment. Each phase, around $80,000 is going to be paid to the LDC for that purpose.
Okay.
If it's needed, and I don't know that it is needed, we'll have to take a look at whether some new crusher run or something might need to be put down.
But we get it either way.
We get it either way, and to the extent that we might need that as a resource to pay for the piles to be moved, we're not going to take a hit in the short run. It might be
At most, like you said, it will be neutral. But
I would hope, yeah. It depends on the labor costs.
Yeah.
I think DPW needs to give Andrew some kind of a ballpark.
Yeah, and Andrew I did see some emails on that, so we'll get on that. Did we just timeline-wise, are we thinking, should that be starting sooner rather than later, or is it, are we cleaning up the materials 2 months, or we need to clean up the materials in advance of the 2-month time?
I think we should probably get it tackled in September.
All right.
So, depending on our meeting date, if the force account information's ready, and then a formal approval inside DPW can occur, this board can do like more of a formal notice to proceed, saying, hey guys, get this stuff cleaned out. If that takes a week or two, depending on the number of days, it should be done by October 1, which I think what I heard from Andrew's updates was that's kind of the time that they want to transition.
But was there, I know there's just some debris, dirt and other stuff, but isn't there some tires as well?
I think there's some tires that might need to be, again, driven around the horn into the transfer station. They'll accept those, and there's a tip fee for that. And coincidentally, we have a negotiated tip fee there that the city has in its favor as well. So if there's a per ton tip that's for those particular loads, maybe the LDC can reimburse the city for that. That's just going to be part of the I forget the exact number of tonnage and tips that the city pays for each year, but it'd be a small proportion of that.
Did National Grid provide like an itemized list of what they need gone to continue work, just so we don't miss anything?
I think they have it staked out and mapped, and there's a delineation of which piles are which, and they've been tested, so we have some confidence that we're not taking anything that's of concern to another place.
Okay. So we'll do, when Andrew comes back, I think I'll just connect him with the commissioner there, Joe, and they can go out to the site and kind of hash out a plan. So
come up with a number. And,
so we can start working on what a fee would be, and then move forward, so that stays on track.
Yeah, and inside the controller's office, between Matt, there'll be, a requisition or something for the force account.
Okay.
That can be all, booked and put into this balance sheet in the right way.
Is there a way to get a sign-off from National Grid once the work's done, so they don't start proceeding and then say, hey, you missed this, we have to stop?
I think that's being managed between Andrew and their field manager.
Yeah.
They have a connect, so.
Did they give any indication, because I know this has been going on almost forever, but, I mean, how long really has actual work in phase one been going on, though?
Over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I
and
mean,
they
'cause I know
thought it
this
was
has
all of
been
that.
years and years, but I mean, the actual work. So would you imagine that phase two is gonna be a similar, we're probably a year-ish, or?
I think phase two is similar scope, and phase three, phase three is the most intensive one, where they're
Okay.
going, down 30 or 40 feet,
Mhm.
drilling concrete in the ground and things like that. But I think we're probably a good 24 more months.
Between both
into this.
phases?
And that's really hitting the stick on the next conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but the southern part, if it is released, we have the ability to start our activities on that, and that could mean having a third party come in. But that would all be subject to site plan and other conversations and formal agreements, and what does it all mean?
Yeah.
So I think we're at a better place to have those conversations without this being a big pregnant thing in the middle of it.
Yeah, good, so progress.
Yeah.
All
Cool. That concludes, King Fuel Site. On to item 3, the Community Business Improvement Grant.
I printed them out, they're at the center. It was just an update, really. I mean, it's kind of, most of them, are nearing completion. I'll go get some, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Is there a, like a greater, any way development vision for the King Fuel site? I think I heard the idea of housing getting thrown around. That seems like a cool idea, but I think the site extends to pretty close to under, if not directly under the Manans Bridge footing, which might be kind of hard to sell for housing, so I just.
It's always gonna be, heavy to mid-scale industrial.
Okay, so it has to be
Yeah,
industrial.
the kind of contamination down there doesn't necessarily fit or would never get to housing.
Okay.
Yeah, and the zoning under the new form-based code is really light to medium to heavy industrial.
Okay,
so,
yeah, I think that's part of the section where like there's an overlay, so I can talk to someone in plans, but
Yeah.
that's just not clear from, because it's the waterfront overlay, what.
Yeah, that's the industrial area. I think they zoned that to be consistent with historic use. And then Midtown around where the existing salt pile, Madison and those streets.
Yeah, there's that big block.
That's where there might be some mixed use.
Okay, that may be what I'm thinking of, where there's
Yeah.
a housing proposal.
Yeah.
You can, I possibly end up swapping where outside of that heavy industrial area, if you move some of that industry down, that could create housing opportunity towards the area that Justin just referenced.
I think this is great, thanks for compiling this.
It's kind of just an overview of, which ones are done, which ones are still working through some stuff. The yellow areas are a couple questions that have come up where, like the doggy daycare had $3,500 left that she didn't spend, but she's trying to do one other piece to her upgrade, and she wanted to know if she could access that $3,500 again. And then the other one is,
So when Danae, she accessed again, so we kind of like closed it out, and now she's like, well, is that what you mean by that? Okay.
she wants to do the grooming part of the business, so she is asking to access that money. What's the last two? The last two yellow ones, one of them, there's a tax question, so, and I'm not really sure what's going on with them. I just wanted to highlight that one. And then the last one, she ran into an issue while she was doing her renovations, and she wanted to know if she could come back to ask for, the 16,000 or whatever to bring her up to the maximum of 50,000.
Mhm.
She only asked for a portion of it.
Do we have to reopen that for?
Yeah, I mean, at some
Yeah.
point, we're probably gonna have to, we have a pot of money left in there, like a small amount, so.
Is that 92 of the 92?
Yeah, it's a pretty good amount of money, so, I mean, we may want
At
to
least
try and
probably possibly
reconvene
two
the
projects, yeah.
committees, yeah. And see where it can be spent.
Yeah. I know not to commit, but, the city is also going through, that review of the ARPA funds because we have to make sure that those are contracted by the end of this year. Not that there's a bunch of money left in there, but, you know, any little bit or projects that might not be fulfilling what they need to be, we want to make sure that we don't leave $1 wasted. So just throwing out there that a program like this could possibly get a little bit more money because it really was a success. And, you know, it's making a huge improvement out there, so.
We have a couple that came in after our last deadline.
Yeah, I was just looking at, yeah.
We could supplement if we get the Main Street funding, that could supplement
That as well,
because they're all businesses.
yeah.
Right, no, that we want the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a couple
So,
hot-
but just so I understand all these numbers here, so this 94,000 is what's left over uncommitted for this particular program.
Right.
Now, all the other ARPA stuff is totally separate from
Yes.
this. Okay.
Yeah, I'm only focused on our.
Right, and then,
Yeah.
and then this page with the 390, that's like potential,
Yeah.
these are other requests?
Those came in after our last meeting. They were kind of ones that were still rolling in. And we didn't, I don't think we had a meeting, or they were kind of, we stopped the program to subtotal to see where we were at. And we knew that we didn't have enough for all of them, so we put them on hold. A couple of them I think are still, haven't happened, so it's potential if they are interested.
And is there any, what is the process for deciding who you want to fund?
We had a committee that we would, send the applications, the scope of work, and photos and everything. And we would review them and they would score them.
Okay.
And then we'd have conversations, be like, you know, is this one really feasible? You know, just chit chat about it. And then, we would send them to the LDC board as recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing came here that was, like, we weren't vetting them here.
Yeah.
That was vetted by that committee, and then we would vote through in each round. And I believe like the first 2 or 3 rounds, we were voting as a group, and then we at my request, we split to vote on each project for approval. And so these open items are, do we, like, if these people want to move forward on stuff, are we able to, is this something we need to put a vote on today?
No, I just wanted to give an update.
Okay.
So if they're already approved, what they do is they submit all of their proof of payment, and depending on the project, code will inspect it to make sure it was done. And then I bundle it up and submit it over to the comptroller's, well, Seamus signs off on it, and then I submit it to the comptroller's office. And then they send the reimbursement over. Is that what you meant? Sorry.
Yeah, and are there was 1, maybe 2, 908 River Street, and that's it, is the only one that looks like we didn't get a response on.
There's a couple that I haven't heard from in a while, but I'm gonna have to reach out.
I was just gonna, request that if you just, you know, maybe in the next week or so, do another recheck and see where everybody's at, and then we can touch base like we were, you know, had been, but.
Yeah.
I know as of your last checkup, I mean, months ago, everybody seemed, I mean, there was we weren't like too worried about anybody
Right.
spending it,
That was
so.
a while ago, but there's a couple that have kind of dropped off the radar, so those are the one with the tax, they owed some taxes, so I wasn't gonna reimburse them. because
Yeah.
it was city money.
Yeah, we won't reimburse.
Good checking on that.
of course.
Yeah.
They owe, it goes through, make sure that they don't owe
We had that at the
water,
IDA
tax.
where we get all the way to the finish line and we're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't wanna reward bad behavior with,
No.
right?
No,
But, I mainly just wanted to give a overview of where it's at, but those couple of people that were asking about getting, you know, using that additional 3,500 that was left, and the other one wanted to possibly come back to ask for the full 50. Those are, if you guys think that's an acceptable thing, I can let them know, and that'll be a next meeting item.
I mean, the balance on, like, what's interesting is that they're asking, so there's one person asking for 3,500, one asking for 16, and we have 13 remain, like, that fund total shows that there were 13,000 unused. So we
I took the
could,
3,500 off of that total. If that, I put hers, I think I subtracted her. Oh, no, I didn't. I see it on there. Sorry, what was your question?
well, just if the total being asked at the next meeting is 19, and we have 13 that were unused, right, I'm just
I don't have it.
I'm just wondering what the unused number is. At the bottom right on the last page.
Oh, that's the total. Yeah, that's the total that was unused, so I was just trying to keep track of the
Yeah.
I put her $3,500. I took that off of there. I did put hers back.
Off of the unused, okay.
Yeah, I took hers off, and
Yeah.
then I did not put anything in that column for the last project, because I didn't want to change that number.
I can reimburse by virtue of a check to the controller's office, and let them keep the delta. Might be one way to get the taxes paid quicker.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great to, this is a complete side note, but it'd be great to see something on, like, the website with a summary of this. My
Yeah.
only fear of that is, if you're just opening yourselves up to a landslide of emails asking for more funding. So I'm not saying don't spread the news about this. I think it's a lot, especially the successes, but it would be great to see if something could continue for businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be fantastic.
If there's a larger number out there that's uncommitted or unused and the program window closes, we may be able to talk about how the LDC could deploy it directly, or there might be projects that the LDC wants to self-deploy without making a grant. There might be an opportunity there to think about. I mean, ultimately, it's got to follow the ARPA grant regulations and all that stuff, but it's pretty broad.
Yeah. Well, that's why I mean, this model seemed to, work, and so if we can pump a little more into it.
The refuge space, the very last one, is, like, there's a lot of, like, I'm familiar with most of the businesses in here, but I'm really loving the work that they're doing on that, because that's a very visible space.
Yeah.
And Sarah Badney's doing the facade restoration, and it looks phenomenal.
I just drove by yesterday, actually, and saw
Yeah.
activity out there, so it was nice to see, and,
And Happy Paws, too, looks great up on,
Yeah.
like the ones who did the exterior, like, really turned it up a notch, and I think did some really excellent work. It's harder to see, like, roofs and walk-in coolers, I know, but it's nice to see, like, some of the exteriors of the businesses doing some work on it. Cool. I guess there's no, I mean, if there are the funds there and they're asking for increases and it's only these two items, I think that's something we could vote on next meeting. I don't think we'll have a problem with that, but I'm curious, it would be, because the committee is no longer exist, I'm curious, like, what the due diligence for, presenting what the plans are with those additional funds. If it's just an addition to the scope, it'd still be nice if the two people asking for it at least attended.
Yeah.
And put that case forward, since the committee isn't around anymore to.
I could ask the committee, but they were always just like,
Yeah. And if the work isn't that different, I'm sure that they don't necessarily need to go through it, but I would like to, if the people asking for the funds come back in, they're gonna be
I can do that.
extending it, and then we can vote on it.
So, just so I'm clear, so in terms of potentially dispersing any uncommitted funds, we need to make those decisions before the end of the year about where that money would go?
Correct. It has to be contracted.
Okay.
So that's if we,
I think spent by the end of 25 as well, yeah.
they're,
Right, but
20.
contracted is the key thing.
2026, actually,
Is it
is
six? Okay,
spent,
good,
yeah,
all
but
right.
contracted,
We have a contract already with you,
yeah.
so.
It's committed from the city's perspective,
Yeah.
but we need to deploy within generally the same windows, so.
By the end of next
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
And even, that's why, to me, this, where it would be, I don't wanna say a number, but if there's a certain number that becomes available, that could still, pull off some of these, I mean, it looks like the folks that just got, you know, I know we've talked about this before, Danae, but I mean, you know, your last page of the potential round 7, I mean, those are a lot of good perspective spots to help. So, I mean, if there's, you know, it would be easy because we can just, okay, boom, make that extra allocation. There's already a contract set up with the LDC, and, you know, we can show those funds are getting redirected.
But we don't need to reestablish the committee and set up a review
No,
process.
it's an active contract. I mean, the only thing is, I know we talked about who was on the committee. I'm sure there might be folks that are not, you know, I don't know if there's people that are still here.
Yeah, it was a pretty wide range of people.
Yeah.
They weren't all Troy people, so.
So if anything, possibly, we might just be tweaking that committee or
Yeah.
refiguring that, but that shouldn't be too hard, you know.
Great.
They weren't all Troy people?
I mean, there were like, there were some county people.
At heart,
like,
they were.
Yeah.
They, there were some county people, and I do think there was, a committee member, Anthony Gaddy. I didn't think he was in Troy, but he's affiliated somehow.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, no, we picked people that were affiliated with Troy, but
Okay,
Gotcha.
I have a list,
all right, cool, thanks.
Well, that concludes our old business. We'll see these items again next month, it looks like. On to the financials of Matt.
Our first report statement of financial position. At July 31st, we had total assets of $3,773,021, with $310,568 of that in cash. We had total liabilities of $1,354,931, which left us with a fund balance of $2,418,090. There's no significant change in statement of financial position as of July 31st. And our last report is the statement of activity. For the month of July, we had a surplus of $75,139. The most significant source of revenue was the administrative fee for Kings Common, and the largest expenses were in our accounting fees.
Great, thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt, other than, what we brought up earlier?
I jumped the gun earlier, so I got my question out, thanks.
No worries. If no further questions, do we have a motion to approve, this month's financial report?
I'll make a motion.
Financial statement. Thank you. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we just have, Tom and Andy absent today. Great. On to the last bit, adjournment. Who wants the motion? Who wants to take it?
I'll make that
You
motion.
got it, Randy?
I'll-
You're stuck here, though.
I'll second it.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. I do, I wasn't gonna bring,